Hi, welcome to Algebra 2, Lesson 2-5, Completing the Square. We're going to continue with example 1. Use square roots to solve quadratic equations. What are the solutions of 25 equals x squared plus 14x plus 49? Previously, you solved the simple quadratic equation by finding the square root of both sides in the last lesson. So we will use a similar method to solve more complicated quadratic equations. So before we talk about complex numbers, first of all, we want to really use the square roots. So let's start with this equation. We want to complete the square, right? So that we want to factor out. But first of all, we want to think about the perfect square trinomial before we factor them out, so that we can factor them out easily. Notice that the second term is 7 times 2, and this is 7 squared, right? And so we don't want to solve for 0 in this case and combine 25 with 49 because we have a nice little factor here, 7. So now that we have a common factor, we can easily factor out x plus 7 because 7 times 7 is 49. 7 times 2 is 14. Why is 7 times 2 important? Because if you multiply them out, you want to find a number that is a multiple of the numbers here, and you're going to multiply that, which is x squared, multiply that, 7x, and that, right? So you're going to have 2 7s. So this factor and that factor will have to add up twice for your second term. So that's why if you see any factor that makes a square for the last constant, but is double, is half of the coefficient of the second term, that is a perfect square trinomial. So you want to recognize when you see a perfect square trinomial. Okay, so it's going to be 2 times a number x squared, and then n square. So that number is in both terms here. And then after you factor them out, you want to use the square roots to solve for your x, right? So if we square root both sides, notice that 25 is also a perfect square, so it makes it even easier, right? So then if you square root, that's going to be positive 5, and that could be x plus 7, but it has to be absolute value because that means because this is a square, if you multiply the negative of that number square, right? If you square the negative or the positive, it will both make a 25. So you'll have 2 solutions, right? So you can actually, a lot of times you skip this step and just go right into plus or minus 5 because you understand that. But yeah, but this is just a step that could be in between these 2 steps. And then you solve for x separately with 2 equations. X plus 7 is equal to 5. X plus 7 could equal to negative 5 as well. So then x could be negative 2 or negative 12. Okay, so you will have 2 solutions as normal for quadratics. So keeping this in mind, let's try number 1. Try it, A and B. So recognize if you have a perfect square and factor them out first and square root both sides in order to solve for x. So pause the video and come back for answers. Okay, are you ready for answers? All right, let's look at try number 1. So this is also a perfect square trinomial because you have a factor of 6 squared here and then 2 times 6, right? So then you want to factor out first because 81 is also a perfect square, right? So that's going to be 9 squared. And then if you factor this trinomial out, you're going to have x plus 6 squared. And then you square root both sides. And you have plus or minus 9 is equal to x plus 6. Of course, we can put the absolute value in between these steps, but I'm assuming that you understand that, okay? And so you'll have x plus 6 is equal to 9, x plus 6 is equal to negative 9. So your x is going to be either 3 or negative 15. So you can put a box around the final answers. So in the same way, b is also a perfect square trinomial, 8 squared and 2 times 8, right? And 9 is also a perfect square. So you're going to rewrite this as 3 squared x plus 8, if you factor them out, square. And so you will have plus or minus 3 is equal to x plus 8. X plus 8 could be positive 3 or x plus 8 could be negative 3. That means 8. Yeah. Oh, wait, sorry. That is negative 16. So that means it's negative 8. Yeah, I knew something was wrong somewhere. So I'm going to change this to negative. So x minus 8 would be your factor. And so rewriting my two equations here would be x minus 8 equals positive 3, x minus 8 equals negative 3. So that would change my answers. X is equal to 3 plus 8, 11. X is equal to negative 8 plus 8, 5. And so it could be 11 or 5. There we go. So that was example 1, and try 1 using square roots to solve quadratic equations. And if you recognize a perfect square trinomial, this will be the best method. We'll continue with the next example in the next video.